Before we begin, thank you very much to 100 duck-sized convoys versus 1 horse-sized convoy for joining the Patreon campaign. Thank you for a very weird one. We got multiple convoys of multiple sizes in there. I genuinely don't know which ones I would rather face. See, if you had 100 convoys together, it doesn't matter what their size is, their strategic advantage in just their, military leadership skills would surpass any defense I could muster. I'm cooked. I'm cooked either way. But thank you very much for the help. Thank you very much for supporting the channel. It's what keeps the lights on, keeps the daily content coming. Always appreciated. Let's talk dragons today. Because for no reason in particular, I'm just in the mood for dragons at the moment. And the truth is, I'm always in the mood for dragons. I do love me a good robot that transforms into a dragon. So, being something of a somewhat rare commodity across Transformers, I thought it'd be a good, little subset to kind of look at today, because we've had a lot of them over the course of the years, but honestly, very few tended to get to, the top of the food chain, where a dragon rightfully should be. Oh, and guess what? They're usually Trons of some kind. But we got some fun ones to talk about. We can go over quite a few here before the video's done. So, when we're talking Dragon Transformers, the first ones have to go to the original ones in G1. So, Abominus, the Terracons feature 2. We have both Sinner Twin, as well as Hunger. Both of them fit what is classified as a Drake, which is a 4-legged dragon with no wings. And both of them also feature the same gimmick of having 2 heads. Now, for Hunger, this is because, it just makes it easier to engineer his legs in. I'm not sure why Sinner Twin was given 2 heads as well. You would think they would try to, avoid repeating that. But either way, the first ones in the franchise, 1986, 87, depending on the release date of those toys. Yeah, a little bit of a weird one. It's not a proper dragon. When you talk about this, yes, there are variations of dragons. There's plenty out there. Interestingly enough, weirdly enough, I guess, we've had a few that really don't appear often in Transformers. Wyverns. I can't remember a proper Transformers Wyvern where it has no upper arms whatsoever, just wings. Serpentine, like a Chinese dragon? None, because engineering it would be a nightmare. But what you really want out of, a proper dragon transformer is what you think of, lizard head, wings, tail, etc. To get that, we have to go to 1987 and one of my particular favorites, and that is Doublecross. The weirdest name for an Autobot, by the way. Doublecross is what you forcibly rename Starscream into so everyone knows what's going to happen. Doublecross, again, we're going with the 2 heads. This is just a running theme you are all going to have to get used to. There is no getting around this. In this case, it's because it simplifies his arms, which, granted, for G1, it meant the toy had incredibly articulated arms for the time, because they had to do everything Dragon Necks could do. But this is as close. This one of the original Monster Bots is, the closest you can get to, original Dragon in Transformers. This gets followed up by, Firecons that are vaguely monster-ish. You're getting into late G1 in the US is where you start getting into areas of they might be dragons, or they might just be monsters of some kind. The Monstructor boys have some that might qualify as dragons. Firecons might count as dragons depending on your definition of dragons. So it gets iffy here. So I'm trying to stick to just the strict dragons. And when it comes to just strictly dragon transformer, still love Doublecross. Absolutely do. That's pretty much exactly what you want. But you need single-headed dragons, right? Again, we're going to these like weird mutants. We need a singular head dragon. We need to go to 1989 in Japan to get to Death Saurus. Now we have, the closest we've ever come to a proper dragon. It's exactly what you would expect. It's got the wings, it's got the neck and the the singular dragon head, big tail, big legs. Looks like a T-Rex with wings. What we thought of as a dragon at the time. It's not the prettiest dragon, is it? It's not the prettiest of dragons. We will acknowledge he is known as a chicken dragon. And that, yes, comes down to the coloring of him. The fact that he's given a yellow beak and a white head definitely gives him avian vibes, let's call it. But I don't think the proportions help. He is very wide-hipped, big-legged. Looks like you could pluck one of those things off and fry it up for dinner. That's a little bit weird. Thinking of doing that is a little bit weird. I thought of that. I'm a little bit weird today. But it's the closest we got, right? Right? So, this is the thing. We have a pretty long hiatus in Transformers. So, Death Saurus gets to be like the big bad. But then you get into like the dark period of Transformers where the brand just isn't doing all that well. They are sticking to what works. They're trying to be low risk, and that's not working out. So you get through your Micromaster era, you get through your G2 era where there's got your no G2 dragons whatsoever, unless you start counting like the repainted Firecons. To get the proper dragons, like we didn't even get any for Beast Wars because we were sticking through normal Beast Wars, normal animals for the first 2 years. So in order to actually get to another Dragon Transformer, we have to wait almost a decade. This is where like Dragon Transformer fans were starving, and you had to go out of Japan to get it. This is Beast Wars the Second Galvatron. Again, big-hipped dragon. Though this one, I don't think there is any denying. Yeah, like that's a dragon. Like that is absolutely a dragon. His wings are a little bit weird, I will give you that. But we are still dealing with a proper dragon here that doesn't have a chicken head. So we're getting closer to the formula. I love this one, by the way. I've said it on the channel before. This is the very first imported toy I ever owned. Bought it off someone on eBay who had no idea what it was. Transforming Dragon Man was the title of the auction. And the demo showed it in this super twisted form, like it just fallen out of a truck. But the one I got was sealed in box. It was completely real, clean, beautiful, like just beautiful toy. Absolutely gorgeous. And if it wasn't for the gold plastic in a few parts of him, I would have broken him out for review years ago because I absolutely adore that figure. Where is my modern one? He's like the last like Beast Wars leader character of any of the fictions who does not have any kind of update. Please, someone. Point being, very cool figure, very cool design. Really, really like this toy. Really like the design too. Now, this time, we don't have to wait long at all, because a year later, we're into Beast Wars Season 3, and that gives us our most proper Transformer dragon of them all. No weird twists, no mutations, no oddities to it. This is just straight up a European dragon, the way you would think of one. When you imagine a dragon in your head. The long neck, the the wings on the back, the smaller front arms that aren't like T-Rex small, still like useful size arms, the big legs, the big tail, fire breathing. We threw that one in just for fun. Transmetal 2 Megatron is like the iconic dragon of Transformers at this current time. It's his most powerful form. I would say that even over his Beast Machine stuff. And yeah, it's just a really, really cool looking dragon. He's super intense. I really like the asymmetry when it comes to this dragon form. Like, it gives it a little bit of uniqueness. It gives it its own little character and flair, which is really, really cool. This is the one that would end up getting repainted into Cryotech in a few years. So this one had to carry Dragon Transformers for a little bit. But either way, either version of the toy, really, really cool. This one was always a blast. And stood as like the dragon in Transformers for a long, long time, while everyone else tried and failed to compete. Starting in 2000 with Gigatron. Now, Gigatron, RID Megatron, whichever you want to call him, is still a good dragon. We're back to 2 heads, though. We're back to 2 heads, and you have to ignore all the other parts hanging off of him and have to transform into all the other modes. But we do have a proper 2-headed dragon here at the least. He's got the wings, he's got the tail, kind of. His lance is hanging off his butt. It's close. We got close, okay? It's still a cool touch. It's still a cool figure. Love it. Not going to complain about it here. It's just, you know, we just cut off of like a super proper dragon. So I guess in this case, coming up with a 2-headed dragon kind of feels like you're like upping the power scale from the previous series. I will take that as a consideration. Still kind of weird. But still, decent dragon. And then we wait. Like I said, we got Cryotech in 2001 as part of the RID line. Unfortunately, we're still waiting. So this is where we hit the period of complete refresh and renewal. Go back to what's safe, which was vehicles with big gimmicks for kids. So you get into Armada, you get into Energon. These have no dragons in them whatsoever. So you go for years where the dragon population is just waning. We have to get all the way to the year 2005. And there we get Scourge, or if you prefer, Flame Convoy. This is, again, a super cool dragon. Now, this is a Drake. What I think is interesting on the design of him is that he has those gigantic horns coming out of the back of his shoulders. They're technically not horns because they're not off his head, but like bone protrusions doesn't sound as cool as horns, so we're going with horns. Either way, he has this illusion of wings on his body to help like separate him from just being another Drake. But he is a Drake. There's no getting around that. He's a cool looking Drake. Oh, and by the way, this is technically Transformers' very first Hydra, because of his gimmick that allows 2 extra dragon heads to flip out from his shoulders. No, I don't count you as a Hydra if you have 2 heads. I understand a Hydra can have 2 heads, but I'm looking for a minimum 3, right? If you have 2 heads, you're just a 2-headed dragon. If you have 3, then you pass the Ghidorah check. You're officially a Hydra. So he could actually do the Hydra thing, which was really, really cool. And again, just cool design. Gunmetal, orange and reds, looked like a really cool fire dragon. This is again where, now, we're getting into a period after Flame Convoy where dragons once again go into complete hibernation. You know, Classics gave us Night Scream, who was going to be a part of Cybertron's toy line, but ultimately didn't make it in time. And after that, we went quiet again, because we went in 2 directions at the same time after this, and none of them had anything to do with dragons. One was the live-action movies, where obviously, you know, in the midst of all of these GM cars smashing into each other, they're not going to throw a dragon in there, not at first anyway. So your audience there wanted realistic licensed vehicles, so that's what the toy line became. The other thing the live-action movies did was bring back the nostalgia, or rather, trigger it in the first place. You had adults who grew up with Transformers suddenly becoming aware of the brand they loved as a kid again, but they didn't want just all the live-action Bayverse characters. They wanted the ones they grew up with. They wanted a real Optimus, Starscream, Megatron, who you're never going to get the way you remember him, but let's pretend like he was always a tank. Point being, you had the movie market for new fans, and then you had the nostalgia market that brought in Universe 2.0, alternators, all that. No room to get a dragon in there. No, for this, we had to wait until 2013 when all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Transformers Prime's third season suddenly became all about the dragons. So, this is a little bit muddied. If you check the TF Wiki, what you're going to read is that the writers of the show had a 3-year plan, but in the need to constantly push the narrative of the show forward, that 3-year plan ended up getting burned up in about 2. So what they came up with for season 3 ended up being like a mix between what Hasbro wanted to do and whatever they could throw together, which ended up being a chase for Predacon bones. Hence why only one Predacon appeared in the show up until like the finale movie. Or you believe the original narrative, which is Hasbro just decided, hey, we want to do dragons, so you just have to do dragons now, change the third season to match this. Either way, we got an entire year's worth of dragon toys. Beast Hunters did terrible things to my wallet. This was an amazing time for me as someone who loves a good dragon transformer. They were all over the place and we had tons of variety. You know, you've got drakes, you've got proper dragons, you've got like a whip-tailed dragons been thrown in there. You've got like little spindly elemental dragons. Like, it was great. It was great. I loved this toy line. You know, and it's all backed up by Predaking, who these days I think really does take the crown of this is the Dragon Transformer. It's either between him or Transmetal to Megatron, but that Megatron is also known as a T-Rex, and a guy hooked up to a brain thing in the middle of Cybertron somewhere. But Predaking, he is just all dragon. No, so I kind of vibe with him holding that crown. And he is a cool one, let's be honest. You know, black with orange highlights, once again, getting a really cool fire dragon aesthetic across. So, love seeing that, but man, like, of all, like, I could just go through the dragons all day. I'm going to stick to my favorite, which is Skylynx, and it's completely headcanon reasons for me. Skylynx's color scheme being that like faded dark blue, the maroon red, there's something about that with the bone white as the main color that just makes me think undead Dracolich. You know, this still has like bits of rotten flesh and muscle still attached. It's all weird and headcanon and kind of playing into my D&D fandom, but hey, it made me love the look of the toy. Now, the fun part here is that Transformers Prime in Japan completely tanked. You can blame it on the show just not connecting with kids, or you could blame it on the weird idea they had for the toy line where kids would have to sticker the toys themselves and build the Minicon partners they came with that weren't part of the cartoon at all. They tried to turn Transformers Prime into a competitor to Minipla, and it really did not work. When you had entire, like, video specials from Takara showing kids how to turn, like, leftover plastic forks into accessories for your action figures, I think you've gone a little far. I understand the idea is to get them to customize their toys and be more attached to them, but also, it was really silly, and also produced worse-looking figures than the Hasbro releases, and that's a very rare accomplishment. Point being, they only made it 2 seasons, so to get the dragons, they had to go to a brand new thing called Transformers Go. Just a couple of special video releases for fiction, but now all of the dragons from Prime got completely new heads, completely new decos, and released in Japan as the villains for the series. So another round of these dragons, and I'll be honest, like the color schemes on all of them are really, really, really cool. And the new head sculpts are pretty cool as well. They all look very different from their US counterparts. More Oni inspired. I don't understand why they felt the need to retool the heads and change the color schemes, because kids in Japan probably only saw the American toys on the internet. If anything, those toys being inaccessible to them probably would have raised the value if they had done it that way. Nevertheless, offered collectors something new. You know, I wish I could have imported all of these at the time, because, yeah, they're really, really cool looking. No, over here, if we wanted dragons, we had to wait till 2015 RID, and then it's just mini cons. So, yeah, dragons, once again, kind of taking a back seat for a little bit. But then again, we got an entire year's worth of toys of dragons from Prime. I can let them go. I can let dragons go for a little bit. But, you know, a few years is about, like, the most. I need to get my dragons back in here, please. Fortunately, the 5th Transformers movie heard my cries and produced Dragonstorm for the last night. We don't really like to talk about Dragonstorm a lot. In the movie, it just feels like kind of like a useless special effects piece rather than like an integral part of the story, which is weird considering the prologue of this movie features Transformer dragons flying around. And then they're just kind of there at the end for some reason. Dragonstorm's not a great example. For number one, he's just shrapnel. Like, he's not a cool looking dragon. He just looks like he looks like one of like if you just like stacked a bunch of like magnetic shards on top of each other and then just shaped it into a dragon somehow. He scores points for being a Hydra, I guess. It's not great. And the toy it produced is not great. In the movie, it's like 5 or so of these like ancient Transformer knights turning into this dragon, because we had to like explain literally every piece of Earth history, phenomenon, and mythology on something Transformers did in the past. So yeah, we don't really care about Dragonstorm. No, we cared about Steelbane, you know, like the one that represented one of those knights. You know, he was pretty cool in the toy line. He's about as close to a wyvern as we ever got in this toy line. That's about it. That's about it. The other one would have been Skeletron, the skull-faced one. I know people really love that one just for how like weirdly morbid it was for Hasbro. It did rein in some new dragons all over the place, though. We got a smattering of dragons and elsewhere. Robot heroes, rescue bots rather, got into the dragon thing, turned Optimus and Bumblebee into dragons, and honestly, not a bad job. Not a bad job. I like the whole like transforming into the night thing here. It actually worked pretty well. The cooler ones I thought were a little bit more imaginative. So like meet Twinferno, a modern interpretation of Doublecross with a way cooler name. I love the name Twinferno for a 2-headed dragon. Perfect, right? Absolutely perfect. No notes. 10 out of 10. I love this thing. It's stupid. It's a stealth bomber with giant dragon heads sticking off of it. It's stupid and I love it. And it technically doesn't belong on this list because it's a themed vehicle, not an actual dragon. But it's my video. Screw the rules that I just made up. I'm going to include him because he's super cool. And then we go into a lull again. We haven't had a proper representation of dragons in the franchise in quite a bit, outside of just modern versions of some of the ones that we've already talked about, you know? Doublecross, rather Twinferno these days, has a modern toy. It was retooled from like a Titan's Return. It was a Titan's Return figure. And then retooled into every other monster bot in existence somehow. And then Transmetal 2 Dragon Megatron came back, and we had that toy, and it's really weird, creepy, mismolded face, and like little jagged, like cartoon villain teeth. Still no cryotech out of this one. Don't know how that happened. But yeah, like we're just kind of like sitting, nothing really going on. We kind of forgot about dragons. Well, at least most places did. None in Earthspark, unfortunately, but as of episode 12 of Cyberworld, we do have a new Galvatron dragon. Weirdly enough, it's Galvatron, but it is not based on the actual Galvatron dragon in any way, shape, or form. It just seems to be a very, very simple dragon transformer. And like the most interesting thing seems to be that he has like jet wings instead of dragon wings. It's okay. I think it's more interesting that there's a series where both Megatron and Galvatron coexist. But on the other hand, this is also a situation of this guy is just non-factor right now. As of this recording, he appeared like 8 episodes ago and has done absolutely nothing since then. He just kind of showed up, showed off, left, and that's it. Boasted and bragged about taking over the whole thing, and then nothing. So we're still waiting on that to resolve, still waiting to figure that one out. But yeah, that's where we are as far as dragons and Transformers. I do love how often they come up, but man, it's not often enough. I could absolutely go for more transforming dragons pretty much anytime you give me the opportunity. But that's the list. I just thought, let's just talk about some of my favorite little sect of Transformers, just for my own sake, right? This one's for me today. But as always, thank you very much for watching. Hope you got something out of this. In the comments section below, let me know what your favorite dragon transformer is. I think that's a good one to go with. So I'll be waiting for your comments. And until next time, did I just botch my own outro? Yes, I did. I am going to go home now. I'll see you next time.
Hello everyone, I am Astral Agent Magnetar, a Tokusatsu VTuber, and I am streaming 4 times a week over on Twitch, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoons, and a special late night one on late Friday/early Saturday. So come watch, come hang out, and let's make an impact together.